All right. So tonight we're going to be talking about the first Beatitude. Last week we did the introduction. This week it's going to be off of what we spoke about on Sunday. And what we're going to do is we're going to read the Beatitude in multiple different translations of it. And then I want you to hear it. Neil Douglas Klotz has done a thing where he chants all of them. And so we're going to hear the first one. It is repetitive, but that is how it would have been prayed. It would have been a repetition of a prayer to really absorb and to go within. And then we'll go into some teachings and to get your feedback on Sunday, what thoughts might have come up for you on what we talked about, and then some questions about that at the end. So what I want to do first is just bring up this is the first Beatitude. And does somebody want to go ahead and read? You don't have to read the Aramaic. You will hear that momentarily. Anybody?
Hello.
We're a quiet crowd tonight. Manny, okay. Go for it.
Actually, it sounded like Christy was just about to jump in, so go ahead, Christy.
Oh, well, it's too late.
Too late. Go ahead.
Okay, so blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Matthew 5:3, New International Version Bible. Do I keep going or?
Yes, please.
Okay. You're blessed when you're at the end of your rope. With less of you, there is more of God and God's rule. I like that. Matthew 5:3, the Message Bible. That's why I like it. Empty yourself. Langlois, 2009. Happy and aligned with the one are those who find their home in the breathing. To them belong the inner kingdom and queendom of heaven. Blessed are those who are refined in breath. They shall find their ruling principles and ideals guided by God's light. Tuned to the source are those who live by breathing. Unity, there, I can, is included in God's. Healthy are those who devotedly hold fast to the spirit of life. Holding them is the cosmic ruler of all that shines and rises. Resisting corruption, possessing integrity, are those whose breath forms a luminous sphere. They hear the universal word and feel the earth's power to accomplish it through their own words. And healed are those who devote themselves to the link of spirit. The design of the universe is rendered through their form. Douglas Klotz.
Anything stand out for you more than another in those?
Instinctually, it's always crazy how I like just instinctually. I was like, "Ooh, I like that one," and it was the Message. Seems to be how that always goes for me. Every time the Message shows up, I'm like, "Oh wow, I don't know why I'm so drawn to that."
Right. Well, and as I said on Sunday, and I said last week, the Message actually it does a really amazing job of translating the Beatitudes pretty darn close to the Aramaic translations. I found, which isn't normally the case, with them. I mean, I love the Message. It's a fabulous contemporary translation, but it isn't always, getting close to the, what it really meant. But this one it did. So yeah, good. Anything else that struck you? That's in that.
Well,
yeah, Christy.
When I went to visit Leticia, I helped her. I helped her. She was in pain, and I said, "We're going to breathe together."
Oh,
and
nice.
We did 3 sets of breaths together, and then she peacefully went off to sleep. And I don't know, there's just something that I felt like instinctively and so when I heard the one that says, oh heck, I don't remember the exact quote, but about how that brings us the kingdom, the spirit of God.
Yes.
I felt like that's what we were actually doing at the time, but but it came from an instinct, not from a, I didn't have a written word to back that it wasn't from here, it was from here. Right. And in fact, her son witnessed it, and he said after she went off to sleep, he's like, that was amazing. because he just witnessed what I did for her and what she did for herself. And she's so full of light that I knew that that's how I could help her get there. So anyway, so I felt like that one really resonated with me, because it's like, yeah, I felt that. I've always felt that, but I felt it particularly strongly in that moment.
Exactly. But remember what we talked about a few weeks ago about the breath, about Yahweh, right? You know, it really being about breathing.
God.
Right. You know, and what is it? You know, we inhale, first thing we do and when we come into this world is we inhale the presence of God, and the last thing we do is exhale.
Right.
And so yeah, so you got it.
Sounds good.
Good. Thank you. Well, I want you to hear. Yes, Tom, go ahead.
Yeah, and I think, well, it's kind of interesting because what I missed the first part, although I did catch up today, I did see the full beginning of the service. But one of the things that Neil Douglas quotes, when I actually saw, in person while the service was going on, why the Aramaic, there's so much about breath, and well, because poor in spirit, and the word in Aramaic, which is very close to the Hebrew, which is in Aramaic it's ruch, and Hebrew it's rucha, I think. But spirit, breath, and soul are all one word, and where in the Greek they're automatically doing the spirit bent to it. In Aramaic, it's more fluid, and that's why almost all of the Aramaic translations that he proposes have more to do with breath than with spirit. I mean, because it's the same thing anyway. Right. How important breath is as spirit.
Exactly. And we'll have to watch that, by the way. So, yes, Marianne.
Well, just listening to people talk, what I'm reminded of is whether we're in the depths of pain or emotional pain and we feel overwhelmed, we have a tendency to hold our breath. And sometimes it takes the medical professional to say, breathe, breathe. And for brothers and sisters in Christ, sometimes it just takes someone to say, breathe. And that was one of the watchwords that I used with working with my emotionally behaviorally disabled kids who would come in traumatized, and then with their host other diagnoses on top of that. I would tell them in the midst of their trauma or their tantrum or their panic attack or whatever it was, I'd just sit in front of them and I'd put my hands out and I'd say, put your hands on mine, look in my eyes. Now we're just going to breathe in and out. So Ed, when you do your stuff to pray us in, reminds me of what I've been doing for years. And it is just so amazing. I mean, here you have these kids, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, middle school. And I didn't realize I could breathe. And I think that's true for a lot of adults. They don't realize that they can breathe through these things. So that's it.
And interestingly, we only usually breathe to about here. When you think about it, we often take such shallow breaths and don't do the depth of our breathing.
And when people who are addicted to smoking, especially, they don't realize is that because when I work with people and they're like, well, I can't, it calms me down when I smoke a cigarette. It's like, well, what's calming you down is breathing. So you're breathing in and you're breathing out when you're smoking a cigarette. And so that's actually what you're doing. It's just that somebody conditioned you to do it with something toxic in your mouth. But the fact is that it's actually breathing. So when you get to that place, and that was a big part of my quitting, was getting up in the morning and going outside and breathing like a few clean breaths of fresh air, and then just changing the other behaviors. But it was all about breathing. So
not to go on too much more of a tangent, but you're absolutely right, Manny, is because I mean, some of you know, I've been a stress smoker at different times in my life. And one of the first times when I stopped, I realized the reason I had smoked is smokers have to take a break. And I don't take breaks. I rarely will stop, right? You know, and so smoking gave me an excuse to stop for 15 minutes, to go outside, and yes, to breathe, right? And so when I stopped smoking, I would still then take my breaks and breathe deeply for 15 minutes. I mean, my God, what a difference that makes.
and you're actually breathing deeper. So if anyone who's ever, like Marianne, you'll understand this, anyone who's ever done breath work, is that especially within meditation and stuff, right? You breathe down into your gut, right? You breathe down and you let your stomach expand and that sort of stuff. And when you're smoking, you're breathing much deeper than you do in the shallow breath.
Right.
So in the shallow breath, when you're talking and stuff, is here, but when you're smoking, you're actually like filling your lungs, kind of a thing. So that's why it feels like it's the thing that's relaxing.
Yeah.
Right.
So
I was going to say that too with the breath work, is that you can actually do shamanic journeying without substances. It's not necessary. It's one way that you can do it, and I believe that's legitimate. But not everyone is. Some people are contraindicated for that, and you can do it with breath work. And like, if you want to just try it, you can imagine like breathe in, and then breathe in deeper, and one more, and we'll literally go and push it. So you're breathing in and out. And if you do that for 20 minutes, and I've done this with one of the guys, I've done it in several places all over LA. Last time was in West LA. But he actually has gongs, and actually there's a huge, like I've been where healing can be messy. Let's just say I was just and all this emotion and all this stuff, letting it out. And the nice thing about certain healers and stuff is that he actually has live music with gongs and stuff that says, no, breathe in, God. Go ahead and breathe in normally. Take in deep breaths when you need to. And now let the healing come in, because it's really a big cathartic moment.
And there's actually, you've done it here, Ed. I've
Hold on to that, letting that out. Letting that out. And it's a big healing moment.
I'm sorry, is that freezing just happening on my end?
what
He
freezing?
was kind of freezing up a bit.
Just say how just taking in oxygen is healing.
No, it's happening a little with me too.
Okay, all right, good. I was just wondering if it was me.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you've actually used it here, Ed. And that practice of breathe in for 4 counts, hold
Right.
for 8 counts, and let go for like
Right.
16 counts, like that whole thing. And it's quite amazing, especially when you're using it with meditation, because when you're connecting with source, like counting your breaths and like concentrating on the breath keeps monkey mind from like taking over. So that's and so in this context with that Christy brought up from that one line in there, I mean, it's like kind of the ultimate connection.
Exactly.
Sometimes it's helpful to give monkey mind an assignment. Count to 4.
Right.
Yeah, like
Tom,
sorry, what's her
Right.
name? Pema Chodron says thinking. Just let it know, like thinking, not to stop, so thinking.
Right. Tom, did you have a last comment? And then I'm gonna.
Actually, it's a little exercise, and then Neil's book, like he does with the Our Father. For each line, he has a body prayer, and for this first beatitude, it involves the breath. So I think we can all do that. Don't breathe necessarily, just a little more deeply than you would normally do. Just have a little more conscious breath throughout this exercise. It's not going to be very long, but This is his body prayer for this. When feeling out of rhythm with yourself or your surroundings, experiment with breathing in and out, feeling the sound of the word ruha, breath, spirit, soul, or Allah, God. Feeling that sound as you breathe. Let the rhythm of the word and the rhythm of the breath merge in a way that feels natural. Allow the sensation of the breathing to touch the entire body. Gradually let go of the word and allow the feeling of your breathing to cradle and rock whatever part of yourself has been ignored or starved from its connection with the source of life. Isn't that beautiful?
It is.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Very beautiful.
So with that, let's listen to Neil as he chants the first one here. Hold on a second. This book, by the way, this also comes, you saw Tom have it. He also has a CD, and the CD, you can order it off of his website at wound.org. It has what you're about to hear on there. You can also download it as well off the website.
Lemeskeni Baruch Dilhone Malkuta Dashmaya Tuvehu Lemeskeni Baruch Dilhone Malkuta Dashmaya Tuvehu Lemeskeni Baruch Dilhone Malkuta
So that is the first Beatitude. Isn't it cool? I'm gonna bring back up for you. I want to show us once again what you just heard. See if you can catch the words in here. Tubayun, Miskene, Ahuk. This is what Tom was just talking about. Baruch Delehenu Malkuta Deshmaya.
Messiah.
Okay.
Shmaya.
Some of the two of the things that he pulls out, and we're going to go into this in just a minute. He's talking, blessed are those where the breath brings them into, this is heaven. If you remember from the Lord's study of the Lord's Prayer, Malkuta Deshmaya, that is talking about the kingdom of heaven. Okay, so when we're poor in the spirit, when we've emptied our breath, when we've emptied ourselves, then there is room for us to, if you will, be in heaven. Okay, so that's why, as it says, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. It's also why in here, you're blessed when you're at the end of your rope, when you're emptied. Right? When you're at the end of the rope, the frustrations, etc., and you just humble yourself. It's just like it is what it is, and just let go. Step number one, powerless over. When there is less of you, there is more room for God and for God's rule. Isn't that what being in heaven is about, right? Is that when we are in the presence, we are, if you will, in heaven. So that's where he gets, this is his longer explanation of it. But those are the words in the blessing that gets to this point. Okay. I'm just gonna.
I like what it says there. I can is included in God's. That's pretty powerful right there.
Yes, yes.
Mhm.
That's why on Sunday I talked about the great I can. Right?
Yes.
Because
yes.
when we're just think about those times when you've like really been in the zone, right? And you feel you can do anything. It's and I do like how he uses it's the I can, the great I can. And when we have the power of spirit, there's times that you can think of when you just felt full, like I'm on the top of the world. That is that energy. That's replacing our own ego with the presence of God. Okay. So I just want to pull out a few things in here. Some of this I talked about on Sunday, but some I didn't. This is about being humble in spirit takes on a whole new connotation for understanding with this insight. I see the poor in spirit or poverty of spirit as a letting go of self and all that keeps us locked in ourselves. If we don't see poverty as a loss, but rather as an emptying of ourselves, then we are ready to receive the fullness of the blessing that is to be shared with us. And then some other things I just want to pull out. When we are, this is in reference to Jim Forrest's work, and he talks about how Mary, Christ's mother, is a paradigm of poverty of spirit. Her unconditional assent to the will of God is a model for us all. Wherever we defer our will to the will of God, we open ourselves to God's transforming power. And I said, I agree with that, especially about deferring our will to God, thus opening ourselves up for transformation. And hold on to that one. This is also the beatitude that connects us, as we talked at length about, it connects us to the breath of God, the ruha, as Tom had pointed out, the Aramaic word translated for the breath and soul. Whatever moves, stirs, and animates and links us to life, as Neil Douglas Scott says. And then Malkuta, the kingdom of heaven, is also an important word and concept. Reminds us that the blessing for emptying ourselves, breathing in the Holy One, moves us towards being in the ultimate presence. It's about being one's full potential, the great I can. It is about being in the realm of endless possibilities. Individuals who've emptied themselves have surrendered their egos to the divine and thus are able to truly bring into reality heaven here on earth now, not in the future. So what are some of the things? I think that brings up some really good questions for us. I mean, one of the things is, can you think of a time or times when you have just really felt yourself filled, like you're really in the zone, if you will, in the presence? Does anybody have a? I know, believe it or not, I played sports in high school and college, and at home, and there were times when, I just, when I was able to really concentrate, it was like nothing could get in my way. Right. I mean, now those of you may not, I was a field hockey goalie, and, and that takes a lot of concentration. You don't look at Manny, he's like, yeah, whatever. Right. Get out of my way. I was known to break a stick or two of somebody else's, not mine.
You don't want to break yours, right?
Right, not mine. But I remember those times that I was just like, I was so focused, I was so present. And that's another thing about all of these Beatitudes. They are about being present in the now, right? Not about past, not about the future, as Manny would say, not about the wreckage of our future. And so can anybody relate to that? Sure. Yeah, Christy?
Yeah. I had a job that the manager got fired for inappropriate behavior rather suddenly, and they said, okay, you're in charge. And we had 6 months worth of filing. We had 3 months to complete the goals. I had to do like 120 15 and 16-year-old kids and get all their evaluations and get all the files together. And I could hire people, and we did it in 90 days. And nobody expected me to be able to do it. And we were just like, boom, 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 go. And everybody was really focused, and I was focused, and there was no room. There was no time to think about what happens if we were not successful, because there was just no time for that. And it was awesome because everybody like rose to the occasion, and we did it, and we were successful, and it was awesome. It was incredible that we did basically a year's worth of work in about 90 days. And saved our own jobs, saved the program for the kids, and and I got a big promotion, but that's that wasn't the reason why I did it. I didn't do it for that reason. I did it because we all just wanted to work together, and it was that skill, that management skill, that bringing everybody together that got me the job more than anything else. But my mom raised me that way, so I didn't have any choice.
Right.
But yes, but everything just. And it didn't matter, any obstacle that got in the way, we figured a way around it. And it was like, there was nothing that was going to stop us from making it happen, And I even convinced the board of directors, I convinced all kinds of people that we were going to do it, even though, I wasn't so sure. But it's like the confidence that you put out there, other people will be willing to give you the opportunity or the grace or the leeway, whatever you want to call it, to, okay, she says she can do it, let's wait and see, and so, but it was like a superpower, right? It was like, I don't really know where it came from. I didn't ever have to do anything like that ever again, at least not yet. But it was it was amazing.
Beautiful.
So yeah, I felt like the good that we were doing for all those kids was what was motivating us all to do the work, because the guy who left was about as far from good as one could be. And so it was like, the good is going to triumph over evil. We're going to give these kids what they deserve, and we're going to give them, and we were pure of spirit, pure of heart in the reasons why we were doing it. We weren't doing it for ego or for any other reason, except that we wanted this program to continue despite the bad behavior of the previous person. So it was good.
You were creating heaven here on earth.
We were.
Yes.
And you know what? Those people who worked with me and for me through that, they're still my friends today. They're still on my Facebook. They still say that was the best job they ever had, because we all were together in that moment. We were all in the right place at the right time together.
That is a beautiful example of this. Thank you.
Mhm.
Awesome. And Manny, how about you? Unmute yourself. There you go.
Thank you. Yeah, to Christy, anytime, microdoses is how I say it. And anytime that I get the opportunity to witness somebody's transformation, or like even just somebody like what just happened to Christy physically, in her face and her voice and all the rest of that is like, it's transcendent, and that's exactly what you're talking about. Every time that, I have a moment with a client or at a seminar or that sort of stuff, and you watch somebody have that moment, that aha moment, whether it's a kid learning how to, like draw something, or, like any of those little victories, those little, those little moments of that, like, oh my God, like heaven just opened up to them, like, oh my
Mhm.
God. And, and I gotta say, I guess it's just a matter of opening up yourself to be a witness. That it happens a lot. It happens often. It happened a lot with Maya. It happened a lot in church. Being in the back of that church and witnessing people having their moment or whatever it was just for the day. It's it really is. Yeah, it's something that if you tune yourself in, you can have those moments every day if you like.
Mhm. And I'm glad you said that, if you tune yourself in every day, because really isn't that the goal, right? We don't have to like move mountains every day, but if we can tune in and be present every day, just how much more our relationships are blessed, how much more we individually are blessed, what we do, to help others. It's if we can have those moments every day. And that's where, going back to, and many of you said, of breathing, of starting our days by breathing and centering ourselves to
I
have
committed
those
myself a
moments.
long time ago, some 17, 18 years ago, to saying my prayers in the morning, but specifically two prayers. And one of them I know I've shared here before, but the third step prayer. That's, I offer myself to thee to build with me and to do with me as thou wilt. Here's the key part. Relieve me of the bondage of self, Lord, that I may
Yes.
better do your will. And take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. And that's so we literally, that cracks you open to like, okay, I'm gonna put aside my bullshit and like, and be there for somebody else, and I'm just not like step aside, which actually says in those translations you do when you're at, the end of your rope. That's why it just really resonated. When you're at the end of your rope, then you've actually given space to the miracle. You've given space to God, because there's no more of you involved. I think that's for me, that's the key.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you, Manny.
I have a comment.
Anybody else? Yes, Ed. Go ahead.
It's kind of like, well, when all else fails, follow directions. Like, when all else fails, when I've tried my own ego to do it my own way, with the hard way, the difficult way, maybe I'll just simply just go with God, and maybe that, hey, what a thought, my own best thinking got me here in the hell that I put myself in. Let me try heaven, because hell it's not working very, very good. And I thought, when we breathe, and I was thinking back to an earlier teaching in this group about Yahweh is actually from the breath. So if we're breathing, maybe we're actually in some ways aligning ourselves to a higher vibration of the very name of God, which is non-pronounceable.
Mhm.
And then something happens there. And I remember when Marianne taught a couple weeks ago, I thought, isn't it beautiful if you notice that we do the prayers before we take in the communion? And then we have a song before we leave. And I see people, like Manny just said, I see people come up and feel change. There's people who don't come in with the heaviness. And sometimes we hear testimonies like, when we had one of our elders that said, yeah, the little shack could, and watching him realize, telling his story in Stranger at the Gate of, hey, I'm going to come out of the closet to God. Maybe God loves me just as I am, and come to God as we are. Hey, God loves me. I'm a lesbian. I'm a trans person. I'm bisexual. And John feels, I'm a straight outlet. It's just amazing how people are, like how you said at the beginning, are attracted to want to come all the way from Rwanda and Scotland and Georgia and be with us. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So something happens that we can't quite explain when we do like that third prayer, step prayer. Thank you, Manny, for that. That's one of my favorite prayers. It's like, release some kind of bondage of self so I can be of service to other people. Something happens in that intention. Breathe into that.
Excellent, thank you. Yeah, Marianne, Marianne and then Tom. Go ahead, Marianne, unmute.
I was trying to unmute. It wasn't playing well with me. I've been kind of just sitting with, when have I felt in the zone? And there have been times in the pulpit or in pastorate or outside of the pastorate, it doesn't matter. There is a zone where the Holy Spirit is moving through you and within you that's just, there's nothing else like it in the world, period. And when you are that empty vessel and God fills you with whatever it is that God wants to accomplish right there with those people, those circumstances, it is priceless. And listening to Manny reminded me of the fact that there's a phrase and it says, signs and wonders follow believers. All too often today in religion, believers try to follow signs and wonders in hopes of feeling the presence of the Spirit and being a part of that movement of the Spirit. But the reality is, being in the zone means that you've emptied yourself, God has filled you, and you have to be willing to think, say, feel, do whatever it is that God is moving you at the moment. Whether that makes you look like a fool to some, I'm willing to be a fool for Christ. It's okay. Wise to other people, irritating to some, inspirational to others. But the bottom line is, and this is where Manny touched my heart tonight, is the fact that seeing lives changes everyone. It's not book, chapter, verse. It's not someone telling you something that's going to inspire you to believe. It's when you see it and you experience it, and the hair on your arms go up or on the back of your neck, and you go,
Yes.
man, I want some of that. And it's not static electricity. It's real live power of the Holy Spirit. That's in the zone.
Absolutely.
So thank you, Manny. Thanks everybody for sharing tonight. This has just really touched my heart.
That's wonderful. It's wonderful, Rev Marianne. I got to tell you that one of my favorite quotes is from Dr. Wayne Dyer, and that's, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And and so exactly what you're saying, and I know for what you do and what you have done in your life, you must have like an endless supply of stories of seeing those transformations. Such an incredible thing.
Thank you. Tom.
Yeah, it just, this thing about breath, I mean, it just came to me of my own absolute miracle. Walking on the beach in Hawaii, Sunday morning, 7 o'clock, I'm like, why am I so out of breath? What's going on? And anyway, I had to sit down. Ron had to get the car, driving all over the island. One clinic was closed. We had to go to the other side, and all this to find out after one clinic, we had to go to the emergency room, and in the emergency room being told you have multiple massive blood clots in all your lungs. And, this was going on for hours. People have died of one little clot in their lung. There is no way. There is no way that this was going on for hours, and they had to take these really extreme measures, whatever it was. I literally couldn't breathe. God breathed for me. That's the only thing. I don't know. It is just impossible that I'm here. And yet, at the end of my rope, the end of my breath, and still to have the breath of life, the spirit. I have to remind myself, I can't take anything for granted.
That's so beautiful.
Thank you, Tom. Nancy or Tammy, Paul, do you have anything to share? Add to?
Did you say me or?
Yeah, Nancy.
Oh, well, okay. Actually, I felt in the zone in Crossroads Church, which was in a codependency thing where my leader did not show up and I had to take over the reins, and I felt like God was speaking through me to lead this group of women. They had all really horrible stories. Of course, you come there and and you feel empty and you feel humbled and you feel like there's nothing left inside of you. And it wasn't me that could get up on a stage, and it felt like I'm in this spotlight and it's 100 degrees, and it really wasn't. But then all of a sudden I felt calm, and I felt like somebody was speaking for me. God was in me, I think. And so many of the women said that they wanted me to speak again and again. And I eventually wound up leading the group, and that was a really amazing thing. And that's being in the zone completely. And it really wasn't me, because my words are not that great. It was God using me through me. And it was just an amazing thing. It was super amazing.
That's great. Thank you. Tammy, how about you?
Well, I finally can talk, and I have 16 legs, actually 18 legs that I came home to, but my parents said that my sister was going to be a puppy. So anyway, but it brings me so much joy to have all these puppies. With me, I have been reading this book called God Spoke to Me, and it's a series of meditations. First, when I saw the title, it kind of scared the crap out of me, because I was like, God spoke to me. These are the things that, the nightmares of religion are made of. But then as I read it today, it's just a little by little by little process is what I've noticed. And as I was sitting here listening to everybody, and I was reflecting back on the moment on the train this morning when I read that meditation that said, expand. The more you expand your breath, the more you hold. Just like you say, blessed are the poor in spirit. Well, the more I expand my breath, which happens to be for me, that breath of God, the more I'm able to handle the heaviness that's been in my heart recently, to handle the heaviness of tomorrow, that or the I forgot, Manny said it so clever, and just the heaviness, and it comes in a gentle, quiet way. And I've always looked for those immediate transformations in my life, go to a revival and all of a sudden you're healed. And I do mean to make light of that, because in my mind, it is I don't know, it has been very destructive and detrimental to look at life that way. And yet, when it happens in a still, small breath, that expanding the rib cage, the chest, I can embrace the heaviness. I can embrace the joy of remembrance of the people that have really deeply touched my life. I can enjoy the current people in my life, instead of reflecting on that. I've really just discovered that, this through this, but yeah, and the joy that indulged me a moment while I introduce you. This is Buddy, 20 years old. This is Lucky. The other two females, they're gone, probably fighting or loving each other somehow. This is the two-legged one my parents told would be a puppy. But anyway, thanks for letting me rattle on and on and on. I kind of needed to.
Good. Thank you, Tammy.
Precious.
And by the way, the two-legged one, Reverend Pat, is one day older than you. And sometimes when she talks and then you talk, I'm like, oh, yeah. So
There we go.
anyhow,
Thanks.
thank you. Oh, there's my darling.
There's yours. There you go.
Yes. Okay. And thank you anyway.
Thanks, Tammy. And Paul, how about you? Do you have anything you'd like to share in this room?
I tend to feel, quote, in the zone, I think, particularly through music, not surprisingly. I've been watching the various services that have been held for Queen Elizabeth. And I particularly have enjoyed in the various cathedrals. And this is an interesting thing. The cathedral choirs don't use women for the higher parts. They use the little boys. And there is something so pure and so innocent in those voices. And it's just really inspiring. And the other musical piece that really inspires me, and it's I don't know if you all have heard it or not, but it's a young man from the Philippines named Marcelina Pomoy, and he does a song called The Prayer. And his range is so wide that he does both the male and the female part. And if you didn't see him doing it, you'd swear it was two totally different people. And then I used to go years ago, I think I've mentioned this before, but St. John Vianney's Catholic Church over in Hollywood used to have a 40-voice male choir that sang the Mass in Gregorian chant in English. And that was one of the times that I was just I really felt close to God. It was just an ecstasy. So I think for me, certain musical selections tend to do it.
Excellent. Thank you. So do you realize that every one of us has shared about being able to be in that zone of really feeling the power of something greater than us, whether it was for our own self individually or for something larger? And Christy, as you were telling your story, I was thinking about when we did after Hurricane Katrina. We did over at MCCLA it was one of those things, just like you're going to do this. I always love it when I get those. You're going to do this, not knowing how it's going to come out. And within days, within a week, we had ended up collecting enough food and pet supplies to load up 2 52-foot trucks and one 26-foot truck. Yeah, and get a caravan that went to Houston and then Mississippi and then New Orleans. and
Wow.
bringing, yeah, and it was so intense, but where the ability to come to do that, where the ability to do that came from, was truly something beyond. And the blessings that came out of it. Actually, that's how Reverend Keith ended up going to Louisiana, to Baton Rouge, to pastor. Because I stayed in LA and coordinated, and he was one of the ones who went on it. And so he met with the people in Baton Rouge church, and, lo and behold, he ended up going out there. So, these times in our lives when we have the ability to see people come together, to see change, whether it's others or in our own body. I mean, Nancy, you being able to just allow yourself to be used to bring healing to all of those people, and finding, oh my gosh, where is this in me? Is every one of your stories came from getting yourself out of the way and allowing God to take over. I mean, it's in whatever, way you want to say it, but allowing spirit to draw our strength from something greater than ourselves.
And I'm gonna just jump in, especially when you're doing it with somebody else.
Yeah.
Especially because all I could think of while you were talking was MCCLA Gay Pride every year that I did it with you. And on that day, like
Mhm.
that moment, and you're just like,
Right.
wow, like this
Yeah.
is real. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. And I'm going to pose a question to you that I want you to think about. Is there some area of our life right now that we need to allow God to be breathed into it, so that we can move out of our own way and allow the great I can? Is there an area in our lives that we are right now have a roadblock to the potential that is waiting to explode through you and me, myself? Whether it's a personal healing, whether it is taking a step out and doing something different. Is it in touching others' lives or touching your own life? We all have something. And I'm going to ask us to just close our eyes for a second and to bring that situation to the front of our mind. Whatever it is, whatever roadblock, whatever it is that you need to get moved out of the way, especially so you can take a next step in your own transformation. Maybe it's just change of an attitude. And I'm going to invite us to breathe into that situation right now. And that when you exhale, you begin to exhale and to blow away the excuses, the impediments to whatever this next step is, or this new step is that's in our lives. And as we take a good deep breath in, I invite us to be breathing in the spirit that every single person already identified that you've experienced. And I invite you to see whatever the impediment is, just to dissolve from concrete into sand. And to take your step. as we come back together as community, open our eyes. Can you see it? Can you see it? We've all done it before. And we all can do it again. By emptying ourselves and allowing ourselves to be in that presence of the great I can. And we will be blessed. Amen.
Amen.
And if anyone wants to share what came for them, or claim it, claim that next step, I invite you to share it. If not, just continue to hold it in prayer.
I love the great I can. I don't know if you coined it or somebody else did, but this is the first time I've heard it stated as such. You know, I've heard it for zillions of years at parliament seminars and that sort of thing. And so yes, I'll share that mine is really organizing coaching business.
There you go.
And the fact that I keep even reaching out for help and then not doing anything with it, I keep like hiding behind that maybe it's not a good idea or I really can't do it. And before I go, because I'm gonna have to leave my meeting, I just want to say that now this has been a couple of times that I've trudged this road of happy destiny with you in the Beatitudes. And it is very clear to me, and I'd like to say this publicly, this is your Brene Brown moment, this is your Marianne Williamson moment, that sort of thing. When you present this, and I love everything that you do, you know that, but when you present this, it's beyond in the zone. It's like it is just a miracle coming through you, and it feels so powerful as you present it that it humbles me, and I am forever grateful to be able to witness this again, and know for you, for whatever prayers that we're putting forward, pray for you that this is the legacy that you step into. This is the legacy that you leave. It has been for me. I love you all.
Thank you. See you Saturday. Thank you.
Amen.
And is there anything else that anybody wants to have us bear witness to your next step? Or your breath or your I can. Yeah, Nancy?
Okay, I'm gonna bear witness to the fact that since the car accident, that's a big thing in my way. So my next step is I'm going to try to empty myself so totally that I'm going to be able to travel again. Because it's been years now and I haven't done that. So I really need to empty myself to get back up to do that.
Good. Okay. Excellent. Anybody else?
I gotta go. I love you people.
Okay.
Love you
And
too.
Pat, second time on the Beatitudes, it touches me every time.
Good.
And I hear it in a new way. Same words in a new way. So
There we go. Transformation. That's what it's all about.
that's it. Thank you.
All right.
Good night.
Good night, honey. All right. Well, with that, any last thoughts to put into the room? No? Okay. Well, my prayer is that we just pray on it, breathe in it, and know that transformation continues and that the zone is always there. We can just step into it and out of it, and we step into it and out of it, and give ourselves permission to continue to step in it. Cool. All right, I'm gonna stop recording.